Hello everyone, I'm Paleo Parks and welcome to another episode of Primeval Sanctuary, and today I'll be constructing an enclosure with some Jurassic Tour trucks running through them. The enclosure will have two separate parts, a more friendly herbivore side and a much deadlier carnivore side. There'll also be a ticket booth right in front of the Jurassic Tour where you'll be able to claim your tickets before you ride. Hello everyone, welcome to the building segment of this video, and like I said in the intro, we will be building a Jurassic Tour which will be running through basically two separate enclosures which will be housing both carnivores and herbivores. But firstly, I have to get this out of the way. These enclosures in total are going to have 7 creatures, which is already a pretty packed cast. So before we get to what we're actually building, let's just talk about the dinosaurs that I'll actually be adding into these enclosures. So starting off with the Brachiosaurus in the herbivore side, which is, pretty self-explanatory. This enclosure is going to be pretty massive, so we have capacity for 2 2001 Brachiosauruses. And we'll also be adding in the herbivore section some Allura Titan, which, if you didn't know, is actually my favorite hadrosaur in this entire game, and possibly my favorite hadrosaur ever to exist. It's just like the not frill, but crest it has on the top of his head is very, very unique, right, than to most other hadrosaurs, and I really like the orange coloring of that little frill right there. The third dinosaur in the herbivore section is going to be the Stegosaurus, which is once again pretty self-explanatory. It is an absolutely iconic dinosaur, and it would be very, very unfortunate not to have in this park. So yeah, I only added that one because it's an essential, and Gallimimus because I thought I understocked the enclosure a bit. And because of that understockage, I decided to get 6 Gallimimus to add into this enclosure, just so it's a bit more packed. And I think even to be honest, it was still pretty understocked after I added the Gallimimus. That just gives you a sense of how big this enclosure was. But it was a nice addition to see the Gallimimus frantically running around in the enclosures. Now to the carnivore side, I know we're not there yet in the building section. We're really just adding some foliage in the herbivore section right now in the visuals. But either way, I'm going to talk about the carnivore section. I'm going to get ahead of myself. And first on the list is going to be the Atrociraptor. The Atrociraptor is fearsome, it is deadly, and that is the atmosphere I want in this part of the habitat, this sort of horror vibe. That's what I'm sort of trying to aim for here. And yeah, it's to be honest, it's best for the carnivore enclosure to be viewed in the nighttime. I can't speak today. My English vocabulary is not working. But whatever. Second dinosaur in the carnivore side will be the Giganotosaurus, or some like to say Giganotosaurus. Giganotosaurus is the only correct way to say it. I don't care what anyone says. Gigas are just like, they're cool. Alright? It's just, they're terrifying, they're big, and it's just a perfect addition for this enclosure. And the last on the list will be the Baryonyx, which will feed off of the fish inside of the carnivore section. Now getting on to the actual visuals and what I'm building, I finished completing the herbivore section of the habitat. I'm currently on the carnivore side. I'm doing some water stuff right now, and now I'm moving on to placing some trees and foliage. To be honest, it was pretty hard to fill this enclosure with trees, mainly because I'm used to building with viewing galleries or certain viewpoints. With the tour trucks and the Jurassic Tour, you can see the enclosure from all angles, right? And usually I only place trees at the front or at the back, so it was pretty hard to fill the entire enclosure with trees. So what I did was place a bunch of rocks everywhere and place some trees in between them, because I find that placing rocks is much easier than placing trees. It's just much easier to fill space with rocks than with trees. But whatever, I don't know what I'm talking about. Rocks versus trees comparison. But now I'm just placing the Mediterranean trees in the way of the tour trucks, just to give them this sense of claustrophobia. And speaking of this carnivore side and the herbivore side, I don't know why I said speaking of which, I said it again. God, whatever. My English isn't Englishing, guys. I'm sorry. I keep saying that every single video. All right, whatever. I'm working on this little nook right here inside of the herbivore section. So basically, right before you enter the both carnivore and herbivore section, you get to enter this little what's this, like, entranceway that shows you a dinosaur representing the habitat. For the herbivore side, it was an Alamosaurus, and for the carnivore side, it was a Tyrannosaurus. And yeah, that's just a nice entranceway. I placed some Jurassic Park columns with the little fires, which is gonna be a fire hazard, but whatever. I did end up replacing the fire sticks on the right side with some planters and some light sticks, because I found it was a bit obstructive when it came to looking at the tyrant lizard itself. But yeah, anyway, if you want to see the actual tour of this part of the enclosure, if you want to get a nice POV of this enclosure with the point of view of the Jurassic Tour, there will be a link, there will be a card in the top right corner of the screen if you want to check that out at the end of the video. But yeah, I'm placing some water fountains, some biosyn water fountains right now, placing some benches right next to them. And this segment of the video is basically just going to be me placing a bunch of planters everywhere on the path. Like right now, I'm placing this weird formation with some planters on the sides of the path and in the middle of the path as well. I'm going to get to the middle of the path soon enough. And you can see, I did this off screen, I'm pretty sure. In the middle of the path right there, right in front of it, is a emergency shelter, okay? It is not going to be used for emergencies in case a dinosaur escapes. In fact, it is going to be used for tickets, right? If you need a ticket to get into the Jurassic Tour, you go into that emergency shelter, get your ticket stamped, and you go on the ride. And hopefully you don't die. But whatever. Soon enough, we will be getting onto some cinematic shots and the outro, where I'll be talking about my personal reflection, shall I say, on this part of the park. And yeah, see you there in the outro. I absolutely love this ride that I constructed, running through two separate areas in one enclosure. There's just something about it that makes it feel like a theme park ride instead of a zoo attraction, and I think that vibe is pretty cool. I also have to point out some cons. I really wasn't too precise with building in this episode. You may or may not have noticed, but some planters are misaligned every now and again, and the enclosure outline itself is very wonky. But either way, I just want to thank you guys for watching this video. So if you enjoyed it, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Have a great day, and see you next time.